Hello, and welcome to Resume Wars. The resumes and the names are real. The identities and locations have been changed to protect the innocent. And now, on to today's game. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much for joining us for our premiere episode of Resume Wars. Here we've got George Clooney versus Alec Baldwin. Of course, this is going to be Batman versus, well, I guess, Jack Ryan, if you will. So I guess with that being said here, kind of want to kick it off. You all had a chance to take a look at the resumes. Michael, let's start with you. What are your thoughts? Let's start off with what you thought of George versus Alex, or Alec.
All right. Hi, everybody. When I'm looking at George, the first thing that I like is at the very top of his resume, he goes in and says what he's good at.
I'm a Dapper Dan man.
So you have leadership, agility, precision, accountability, and executive chef training. I like that, then followed next by his accomplishments. When I'm looking at a resume, I don't want to see their job description in their resume. I want to see what they've done to make a difference. So when I look at George, I see where he thinks he's good. So if I would interview him, I would question him. Okay, tell me about your leadership skills, your agility, your precision. And then I would look at his accomplishments that has the data. And, but then when you get down into his experience, it's nice, it's clean, it's bullet pointed, and it's a 2-page resume. So it's easy, it's quick for me to review. As we know, when we get a lot of resumes, some of them can be very long, very hard, and hard to read, I'm sorry. And his is clean and neat.
Okay, so you're saying that you would much prefer George's over Alex, correct?
I do. I like George over Alec. When I look at Alec, first, he has his education on top. So depending on the position he's going for, education on top usually means recent graduate.
The whole thing was one big silly misunderstanding, like the Giuliani campaign.
Which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But he puts his graduation years in there. So that's my quote. Okay, so he's July of 10. Well, it's been 10 years that you've been out. No need to put it in there. So I would recommend taking those out. And since he's been out 10 years, I'd probably take the education, move it to the bottom. Because what's more important is to look at his resume and see what he's done to make a difference. Now, as I go through his bullet points, they're kind of hard to read. They're squished together. There's probably about 10 of them per job. If I was him, I would go through, remove anything that tells me what he does, because I know what a general manager of a restaurant does. I know what a server does. I know what a dishwasher does. But he needs to tell me where he's made a difference. And they're in there. But to scan and find them real quick, they're kind of hard. So on his, though it's a beautiful setup, he needs to, I want to say dumb it down a little bit, but make it less wordy and easier to take a quick glance at. And again, it's 2 pages, very easy to read.
Thanks, Mike. I think next step, let's go to Kip Lego Man Staling, because I think he's got his, yep, there you go. That was fantastic. I'm looking at that going.
Don't be jealous.
Yeah, before the diet, Kip, that was me. Just saying. Just saying. So, Kip, kind of give me your thoughts. I know Michael was kind enough to run through his thoughts on Alec versus George. What are your thoughts?
Well, it seems like Michael hit a lot of the same notes that I was singing as I was reviewing the resumes myself. I am a first impressions guy. I like to look at the details. And what I take away from somebody's resume when I first look at it is, are they organized in their thought? I mean, I can quickly assemble a resume and copy and paste a bunch of content, such as a job description like we just described with Alec. But what I'm really interested in is what standout items. I'd rather see more quality than quantity.
10 ought to do it, don't you think? You think we need one more? You think we need one more?
That I can decipher, boom, boom, boom. That's interesting to me. 13 things may be important, but what are the most important 3 that would really set you apart and be a unique differentiator from your opponent, who you are going up against when you're applying for a job? Secondly, I also agree from an educational perspective, I want to put on my resume what's the most important. And if the most important thing to me is my education, I would question that as a hiring manager, because although an education is important, I believe that only sets you up for what your future experience is. And so I know a lot of individuals carry around their education as some sort of a badge that they can wear. And a lot of that is good and actually can be beneficial, especially if you're interviewing with somebody who is from the same university. If you're alumnus together, then I would put that right in front.
Lemon, I like to think of myself as a winner, and I like to surround myself with winners.
But I would also be selective of it. When I sent my resume out, I would also determine who is this going to. So in a general resume setting, I definitely wouldn't put my education first unless it's going to be a unique differentiator. So that, for me, from Alec's perspective, I think is the opportunity there. A lot of the same notes that Michael said with George Clooney, I agree with wholeheartedly. I really like the simplicity of it. Having it condensed to 2 pages is very appealing because I can go through it quickly and I can draw out the information that I need. So I agree with that there.
Terrific. Great points, Kip. John, what are your thoughts on Alec versus George?
Well, as a recruiter, I kind of look at things a little bit differently. Ours is, we'll dig in a little bit more and kind of touch base. I do like that they're both, 2 pages. And I honestly might just skip over. I understand what everybody's saying, skip over the education, but I do agree with, I wouldn't put the dates that we graduated because it creates a bias on anybody's account also. So I would never put the dates, or if it's at the very bottom, it might just be missed anyway. The one thing I've noticed, though, on George Clooney's resume is his accomplishments, while they're great and they're tied into numbers, which we really want to see, they also don't fit into the resume anywhere when you go back on the 2 pages, right? So Tomorrowland restaurant owner is not on there at all, and neither is the Perfect Storm owner. And maybe they don't need to be. Maybe that's what made it 2 pages and not 3 to 5.
Wow, big words.
But overall, I love the format of it. As far as Alex go, numbers to me, when I'm trying to really fill somebody out for a client, we really want to see those numbers because they want to see those numbers. They want to know at that, like Kip said, they can put it together to know that he's, handpicked a wine list of 600 wines. But 13, 14 bullet points is probably too many.
The key to success is to determine your opponent's strength and, more importantly, his weaknesses.
It's too much meat to process. It's like eating that steak from Texas, it's just too big. I would actually have to say in this regard, though, it would be Clooney for me, just in setting, just in, the format, just in the overall setting of what it looks like as far as when I'm physically looking at it. And it gives me the numbers that I need to kind of move forward with him.
Perfect. So we've got, 2 for Alec right now? And
no, I think all 3 were Clooney.
All 3 are Clooney. Well, wow.
Clooney.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do for you here. I am going to be your one lone voice of dissent for you here. It's not going to be a straight all the way through. Here's why.
He's not taking out the broom for the sweep. Come on.
I am not. I am not.
No.
So again, I like both Alec and George's resume, but a couple of concerns from a recruiter standpoint. I see both director of food and beverage for he's got one property, and then he's got the food and beverage consultant another. And one would assume that he's actually one's a consulting or it's his own business, but I want that clarified more. Why are you doing two different jobs at the same time period? Also on page 2, when you look down, he was executive chef, founder, and owner of Catch 22. And there's a plethora of dates. You've got August 2006 till September 2009. And then you go to October 2012 to February 2016. Why was there that difference?
I mean, we may tell ourselves that we're creating something of artistic value, or there's some sort of spiritual dimension.
There might be a very good reason. I probably could read into it by looking at the resume, but if I have to do that much work, chances are I'm probably going to err on the side of caution and just move past them. So for that reason, I have to give a thumbs up to Alec.
Is the danger of being super handsome.
Okay, great.
I would probably recommend for George.
So,
too,
Chris, could I rebuttal?
Go right ahead.
Was that to me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. So I, on the other hand, would be drawn to curiosity for George's overlapping versus, brushing it to the side or saying, that's questionable for me, I'm not going to move forward. On the other hand, Alec leads nothing to be discovered. So in other words, in saying, he handpicks 600 wines, I would tease that a little bit more and bring up was an industry expert within my restaurant community, and somehow highlight that differently, so it draws an interest that, I want to pick up the phone and get more questions from him, versus him just laying it all out there for us to see and go, just 600. A guy told me the other day that he had 800. So, maybe that's less. Give me less, and that will be more to pique my interest and draw out that curiosity. So that's what it is for me.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I do like that too. I still choose Clooney, but for Alec, as a recruiter, we do those questions, right? And Kip knows this because, we ask those questions and we say, tell me a little bit about your numbers. If they're all there, it's a very short, you're not going to be on the phone very long. So, if there's anything left that you can honestly kind of bite into, I think that's the key. And if you do read down through Clooney's resume, like Chris said, he did relaunch it and redesign it. So why was it closed is a question that you would ask. But, yeah. And Michael, you were going to say something about Clooney?
Yeah, it looks like, when he's that owner, operator, that founder part, he should have that all under one title, owner, right, and then the restaurants underneath one. It's kind of like when you work for a management company who has different brands.
Right.
Yes.
Put the management company down and then move it over and then the different hotels. So it shows the continuity,
Right.
Me, I'm a job hopper. I'll go from company to company if I don't feel that the culture is right, but I can explain that in an interview.
Sure.
But as an HR professional, I'm not necessarily looking for continuality anymore. The job's changed. Companies don't value longevity as much as we used to. Now we value more the experience that they gain getting different brands, getting different restaurant types. So it might be great if somebody's at like a Prime Steakhouse for 20 years. Well, that's great. What did you learn in 20 years? Nothing new, because you've
Right.
been doing the same thing at. So there's a couple ways to think of that. Is it job hopping bad? Is job hopping good?
Right.
To me, I like to see a diversity of skills, learning different things from different brands, and that's how I feel. Other recruiters or HR personnel, they could feel differently, and so can operation managers, and that's the hardest part. And
that is the hard part of any recruiting process, right? As recruiters, we might say, this is the resume we prefer, but then we give it to you guys and they say, oh, well, he's a job hopper, or 20 years at one place. How come he only stayed, how come he didn't grow into a regional or something like that?
Correct.
So, no, I agree with that. But I guess we have our winner, though. It does, even though Chris kind of went outside the box, it was George Clooney. So,
good night and good luck. Thank you.
It was.
He will move on to the next round.
Got it.
George gets
Awesome.
George just gets all the popularity. I mean,